Hello everyone, welcome to TGIF, another Friday, another episode. A lot is happening in the world of large language models and applications based on generative AI. Today, pretty much every other business across industries want to build apps which are generative AI based. And one of the ways in which the customers are building these LLM based apps is by augmenting the context of the LLMs by using something called as RAG, which we shortly call as retrieval augmented generation. So, to join me on this short conversation, I'd like to welcome Priya Kedia. Hi Priya,
Hi Divya.
welcome to TGI.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here.
So, in the world of LLMs, right, we have all got used to what RAG does, but I'm sure there is something better and beyond that. Can you shed some light on what you're doing with customers, and is there something new in this space?
Of course. So if you have heard of GraphRAG, that's a recently launched framework by Microsoft. And what it enables customers is to go one step further beyond baseline RAG, right? So let's say if you have data spread across n number of disparate data sources, how do we stitch those data together? If you want to get a holistic understanding of your data, you want to get a summarized representation of your data, you want to overcome the limitation of 1 million context window, right? That's what GraphRAG helps to address some of these challenges. And the way it does it is instead of passing in unstructured chunks of text, it basically gets a network representation of your data, the entities, their shared relationships, and fit into the context window. And that's where it helps to improve the accuracy and also reduce hallucination.
Yep. Thank you, Priya. So, what you're trying to tell us is, along with what we do in terms of a traditional RAG, we also have a different data source in terms of a RAG on top of an enterprise knowledge graphs, and together this kind of amplifies the context, or it kind of narrows down the context that is passed to LLMs, makes it more relevant, thereby driving accuracy.
Absolutely, you are absolutely correct.
Sure. Thank you, Priya. So, uh, give me a quick glimpse of how it works underneath.
Sure. So it has multiple layers. In the very first layer, we take in large language model and we extract the entities, their shared relationships, and we create an ontology, right? Now, once we have defined that, you might come up and say, will my LLM be robust enough to extract all the entities? Well, here we go through gleanings. We go through multiple iterations to make sure we have a holistic coverage of all our entities and their relationships. Now we have got entities, relationships. The very next step, we do a bottom-up clustering. So over here, we identify the community representations of your data, create clusters at different grains, so that if you want to get a holistic understanding of your data, we can do a global search. At the same time, if you want to ask questions only on specific entities and fan out to its nearest neighbors, that's where you can also do a global search. So that's a very brief picture of how GraphRAG works.
Sure. How do you see, let's say today customers are already on the journey, they would have implemented their GenAI apps, right? How can customers get started?
Well, there are two ways you can get started. The very first step, you can just do a pip install GraphRAG library, and with just 1 or 2 lines of code, you can index your data, you can create a knowledge graph, and you can start querying. If you want to go one step further and do a full end-to-end deployment, we have an accelerator. I'll share the link in the description window. You can just go ahead, install that accelerator. With few configurations, you can get an end-to-end along with UI-based experience that you can get started and start leveraging knowledge graph with a first-hand experience.
So if you have a look at the left-hand pane, you get a couple of options. You get to select the data set, few hyperparameter settings, along with the search options. So for the purpose of demonstration, I have enabled both baseline RAG and GraphRAG to have a fair bit of comparison of response across the different search options. So here I'm asking a very generic question. What are the top 5 insights from this podcast? If you look at the response from baseline RAG, it gives you a very generic response. The importance of curiosity and continuous learning, the role of failure in success, and few others. Versus, if you look at the response from GraphRAG, it's very precise, consolidate, and holistic. So it talks about the central role of episode 60, 2023, influence of AI, Microsoft's contributions, and the global search also gives you pointers and references to the factual data where this information is being fetched. Let's ask one more question. So here I'm asking which of this mentioned the word MIT? Again, baseline RAG does a good job of giving you a brief summary of all the podcasts mentioning the word MIT. Versus if you look at the response from GraphRAG, it gives you all the entities where MIT was mentioned, the relationships, the source, pointers, links, and that's like far more holistic than what we can see in baseline RAG. Now, let's also have a network representation of our data. Here, if you have a look at it, each of these different colors represent different communities, with each entity being represented by a dot and the size of dot representing the degree of contribution of entity towards that community. So here we are at the top level community, and let's focus on this one, which is the green community. Let's break it down. Let's trade down further and see what happens. Now, if you see, it breaks down into two different communities. On top, we have the blue community, where if you see, most of this is talking about the innovations being done by Simone, right? It's all similar. Versus if you look at the bottom cluster, it talks about all the innovations that's being done by Zyla Foxlin. And that is encouraging because that gives us an understanding how the cohesive topics are clustered together to make your overall application responsive, accurate, while reducing hallucination as well.
So I think we all got a quick glimpse of what Microsoft GraphRAG is all about as a framework, how it can amplify your LLMs backed by enterprise knowledge graphs and the querying and the structural layers on top of that, which will help us ground the models much better with the data sources that we have. So with that, thank you so much for watching TGIF. Have a wonderful Friday and stay safe. Thank you so much, Priya.
Thank you, Divya.